Hello and welcome back to another Monster Monday, a series where I draw a creature from D&D and I talk about its lore and its history and what it's like to fight in-game. Now these videos are usually based on your suggestions from the YouTube comments or wherever you can reach me, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or even if you email me, things like that. And I usually go through a list chronologically in the order that I was given these suggestions. But today I'm feeling extra festive. I'm a big Christmas fan, so I thought I would pick out of the list a relevant Christmas suggestion, and one just happened to arrive. Wafflecats 513 was the most recent person to suggest this. There have been others who have asked to see Krampus, everyone's favourite Christmas demon. But let's get started talking about Krampus. So Krampus is not an official creature in D&D, but there are lots of homebrew versions out there on the internet. I actually thought that Krampus had turned up in one of the Kobold Press books, but I must be mistaken in that. I flipped through as many of those as I can find, as many times as I could, but either I was just glossing over it and I've missed one, or it wasn't in one. Either way, if I'm mistaken, please let me know, but otherwise, I found some really cool homebrew ones on the internet. So if you want to use Krampus in a D&D game or a whole campaign, I'll leave links to those down in my description box so you can get some interesting stats. They all vary wildly in terms of challenge rating and abilities, but they all cover the same sort of themes. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. You may not be familiar with Krampus, so we should start at the beginning. Who is Krampus? What is Krampus? Well, most people, whether you live in a country which practices the tradition of Christmas or not, will have at least heard of Father Christmas, Saint Nick, jolly old Santa Claus, and so on. But in Central Europe, there's a far darker story, as there often is, to accompany this colourful and jovial tale. These stories date back to the pre-Christian, possibly pagan roots of Austria, Switzerland, Bavaria, Slovenia, that sort of region, usually where there's some kind of isolation caused by mountainous regions like the Alpine region. There, these communities led some pretty unique practices and games or traditions that continue even up until the modern day. But they really had a massive resurgence in the 2013 and 2015 sort of period, at least in Western media, culminating in a 2015 film by director Michael Dougherty. The tantalising opportunity of a gritty reboot of such a wholesome and cherished time as Christmas became too tempting in the modern consciousness, particularly in the USA. And I definitely remember a couple of years, certainly that 2013 to 2015 period, getting bombarded with Krampus everything. But the story of Krampus is an actual tale and an ancient creature that makes for a great story and an opponent in D&D, particularly for your Christmas one-offs. Krampus is often made light of in TV shows like Family Guy, where he made an appearance, and even very similar legends of the Belschnickel on the American Office. But Krampus is described in his actual legends as a half-goat, half-demon hybrid creature, which gives me a huge amount to work with this illustration. Thankfully, being so culturally prevalent in Europe, there is no shortage of illustrations, pamphlets, pictures, and cards of this creature to use as reference as I continue. He's usually depicted as being horned, covered from head to toe in dark fur, with a mouthful of fangs and a long pointed tongue that often droops out of his mouth. He's often said to carry chains, which you can hear rattling behind him, and these symbolize that he's a devil bound by the Christian church and must do their bidding. Sometimes these chains are covered with bells, just like Santa's little jingling bells. That gives us a tiny discrepancy in D&D to work with, whether he's a devil or a demon, because they're quite different in this game we play. Not necessarily in the sort of shared cultural consciousness and in terms of religion or mythology. But in D&D, devils and demons are two really different things. And although there's a lot to go on there, I would probably call Krampus a devil. The reason being, demons tend to be quite chaotic creatures, very destructive and self-serving, and devils aren't exactly, charitable, but they're lawful in nature. And this usually takes the form of them having to honour traditions, and definitely honour bargains and pacts that they make with other people. And Krampus, well, he has a routine, and in many of these stories, he follows around Saint Nicholas, or is a part of this tradition, and therefore, if he has a kind of routine, I'm going to go ahead and call Krampus a devil, at least in terms of D&D things, because that sounds like a lawful thing to do, despite being probably a little bit evil. He's methodical and logical, although terribly cruel. Now, all good. Bad guys in D&D need some pretty fun weapons, and Krampus has a pretty interesting one. He carries around a rutten, or perhaps a rutten, R-U-T-T-E-N, however you pronounce it. It's a bundle of birch branches and twigs, sometimes bound together by horsehair, which he uses to beat, swat, whip, and lash out at children who misbehave throughout the year. The rutten is actually supposed to be involved in pagan initiation rites, and has a history of its own that stems back generations and generations. And although in some tellings of the Krampus's tale, this rutten is replaced with a whip, this broom-like bundle of branches is nonetheless the symbol of Krampus. In fact, in some parts of Austria, the rutten is painted gold, and decorative ones are put on display all year round to remind children to behave. I suppose this is a bit like Americans' unbelievably creepy tradition of the elf on the shelf creature that will watch for whether or not you are good or bad. A messenger back to Father Christmas. But the whole, he sees you when you're sleeping, he knows when you're awake, he knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake, idea isn't just for Santa Claus. There are more similarities. Krampus seems to be like the demon side of Santa, perhaps, and that is evidenced in the fact that Krampus carries around a near bottomless sack too, just like Santa. But as Krampus is like the demon of Christmas and very much the anti-Santa, and with these ancient pagan European traditions being more in line with the whole spare the rod, spoil the child kind of child-rearing attitude, Krampus did not keep gifts in this bag. Instead, he only had more punishment. Krampus Nacht, otherwise known as Krampus Night, is on the 5th of December, the day before the Feast of St. Nicholas, good old jolly St. Nick, and is still celebrated today. In the nights leading up to the 5th, children who have been bad throughout the year will be plagued by terrible nightmares of a demon knocking on their door, scraping at their windows with branches and twigs, perhaps with talons, and of cleft hooves walking up their wooden staircases, breathing heavily at their door. But those that don't repent and choose not to show better behaviour to their community and to their parents will sometimes be gifted coal and wood, their own birch twigs. When Santa does that for you, you know that's the ultimate sign of you being a bad person. You get coal for Christmas instead of presents. But perhaps when Krampus does it, it's an opportunity for change. These are fire-making supplies, perhaps signs that you should go and kindle the fire in your home, look after your family, do some chores, things like that. Those that ignore this warning on the 5th of December will be beaten and lashed by Krampus, and those that are truly awful will be placed into his sack
and dragged to the fiery pits of hell, never to be seen or heard from again.
Perhaps, whereas Father Christmas has a bag of holding filled with magical goodies, the Krampus has a bag of devouring instead. So, way to go, Europe, for making Christmas traumatizing. Now, the Krampus PDFs that I've linked down below all have their own individual merits. You can find them on the Geek and Sundry website as well, because these were my first encounters with Krampus in D&D 5e. The first one was made by a Redditor by the name of PoundTown00, and features a challenge rating 5, quite combat-heavy Krampus, with lots of ice spells, multi-attacks, goring attacks with those huge horns, and the ability to throw kind of like a mini fireball in the form of a lump of coal. Interestingly enough, his birch rutten is actually a legendary action, as opposed to a conventional attack. So that's a pretty fun one, especially for a one-off. Doesn't take much to level up characters from a low level to find challenge in a challenge rating 5 creature. There's a much simpler demon version, rather than a traditional monster. There's challenge rating 3 on the Other Side blog, which features the birch rutten as more of a conventional weapon, and the Redditor Flatlander00321 made my personal favourite in a challenge rating 17 nightmare creature, complete with lair actions, legendary actions, and a frightening amount of hit points for something that can still spellcast, charm elves, steal your weapons, and cast Banish. But like I said, I'll leave links to those down in the description box below, so I hope you have fun perusing those and choosing one that might be useful for your D&D group, and I hope you enjoyed this drawing as well. I certainly had a lot of fun making it. If you did, please make sure to leave a little thumbs up, a little like down below, maybe favourite this video so you can refer back to it later on if you want to use Krampus in one of your D&D games. Share this with the members of your party that have been bad this year and will be visited by Krampus for sure. And subscribe for more videos like this every week. My next video is coming out on Friday and should be similarly festive, so I hope you enjoy that. Otherwise, if you'd like to support me in a more personal way, and you like the drawings that I've made so much that you'd like a copy for yourself, then I'd urge you to head over to my Patreon page where backers get copies of all the illustrations that I do for Monster Mondays of a month. And if you're too busy in this holiday season to tune in for more videos, I hope you're not, I hope you still join us, but if you are too busy, I hope you have a wonderful Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate. And until next time, happy monster hunting.